My name is Ross Hawkins. I'm the director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center. Again, welcome to our advisor forum, Understanding Military Educational Benefits. Before I turn it over to Raylene, I would like to just go through a couple quick announcements. Again, as a reminder, if you wish to receive Master Advisor credit for attending today's session, please enter your name and your department in the chat feature. As a reminder, our Master Advisor reception is scheduled for this Thursday, March 24th from 4 to 5 p.m. in the Welcome Center. This will be the first opportunity we've had to gather in person since March of 2019. So please plan to attend the reception where we will recognize all Master Advisors for the outstanding work that we do on a daily basis. To help our students here at the university, as well as special recognition to Dr. CJ Maples from Theater and Dance, our faculty advisor award winner, as well as Katie Shawley from the Education Advisement Center as our staff recipient. So we will have heavy appetizers. There will be a few different presentations. And again, a celebration for what we've all been through together the last few years, how advising has changed, how we've had to do things differently than many of us would have ever thought we would have to do. But not only did we do it differently, we did it well. So please come celebrate on Thursday, March 24th from 4 to 5 p.m. in the Welcome Center. Please also make sure that your colleagues know about the reception. We've been putting the invitation in inside Missouri State. It's on the university calendar, but the more awareness that we can spread, hopefully the more people will be able to attend and participate in that event. Our next advisor forum after today will actually be an advising workshop. It is an in-person opportunity. It's better understanding the transfer process, a transfer advising workshop. It's going to be on Tuesday, May 3rd from 10 to noon in the Alumni Center, room 118. And there will be an optional networking lunch afterwards from probably 12:15 to 1:15 or 1:30. So if you work with transfer students, you have a desire to learn more about transfer advising and the process that our transfer students go through as entering students, I encourage you to attend that workshop. And then we will conclude our spring 2022 advisor forum series with a technology and advising 2 session, updates from Brian Edmond and Computer Services and his team, specifically about the new registration system that will be rolled out this summer for our first time new and college students attending SOAR. So please make sure to attend the workshop as well as the advisor forum and of course the reception. As a reminder, you are required to have 3 hours of credit to maintain your Master Advisor certification. We do have the Most State Advising YouTube channel. So if you log into the Advisor Certification database and you notice that you're not quite at 3 hours for this academic year, you can always hop over to our YouTube channel, again, Most State Advising, and watch one of the videos. Either from fall 2021 or spring 2022. And then you would enter a custom submission training on the advisor certification database and you would receive credit for watching that form. So now to start our YouTube recording, I'm going to pause just for a moment before I introduce the title of the form as well as the presenter. Thank you all for joining us today for this advisor forum, Understanding Military Educational Benefits, presented by the Veteran Students Center. Our lead presenter is Raylene Ziegler, Director of the Veteran Students Center, and I will turn it over to Raylene so her and her team can share important information for us about advising military students. Raylene.
Thank you, Ross, and hello group, and welcome back from spring break. The team I have with me today is Nicole Dalton. Nicole is my assistant director and the school certifying official. And we have one student veteran that was able to attend, Nick Hutchinson. So he will be available to answer any questions at the end of this presentation. On the very first screen here, I put a picture of the front of our office. For those of you that do not know where we're located on the first floor in the Meyer Library on the north wall. 5 years ago, and it's hard to believe that we've been in this area for 5 years now, the university listened to our military students and made a larger area for our student population. We have 2,500 square foot of lounge and office space under one roof. For those of you who have been around a while, you probably remember we were located on the third floor of Carrington. I think internal audit now has moved in there. And then we had a lounge that is the front room of the HR department now was our lounge. And that's when it was up right next to the counseling and testing center. So as you can see, we were needed a larger space. We have several students that come in and out of this space on a daily basis. They come in here for camaraderie. They come in here for food. We have a full kitchen minus a stove. So we have a lot of interaction with students. So moving right along today, talking about understanding military educational benefits, we wanted to try to give in the weeds, not too far in the weeds, breakdown of the different GI bills and the different tuition assistance. More and more, Congress is changing the verbiage and the way that we certify military students. So our primary job here is to make sure that it's a smooth transition for our military members to use their benefits while not missing out on any of the benefits. We want to make sure they can maximize them at 100%. And that's where the help of the advisor comes in, is understanding this. So on the next slide here, we're going to do a breakdown. These are the 5 GI bills that service members or dependents can be eligible for. The one you probably hear the most about is the Chapter 33 post 9/11. And this rolled out in September of 11th, 2000, rolled out August 1st of 2011. And it was 2009 when it rolled out. And it was a benefit for anybody that had served on active duty for 36 months. They would receive 100% of tuition paid up to a maximum amount to an institution, and they would provide them a BAH, which is a living stipend, and they would give them a book stipend paid at up to $1,000. And that $1,000 is based on 24 semester hours for an academic year. So when we look at the way that when they changed the GI Bill, institutions in August of 2009 started forming offices to help process the benefits. Before the post 9/11 rolled around, most of the benefits were just a stipend. It was based on how many hours a student was in. You entered the hours and there was no money paid directly to the school. So there wasn't this extra work or work for an office to process those benefits. So without getting too far in the weeds on the processing part of this, we have an SEO handbook that's probably about 2 inches thick, and it's all policy and procedure on how we are to process these benefits, even how we process these benefits if they're using tuition assistance alongside it. And then because Chapter 33 pays for tuition only, if a student is receiving a scholarship that is tuition based, we have to back that money out. So we have to work really closely with financial aid to ensure that we're meeting the requirements put out to us by Congress, because all this is law for the VA certification process. A few years ago, the military decided that sponsors, the service member could transfer their Chapter 33 to their dependents or to their spouse. So when that option became available, there was a little bit more work again on the SEO side on understanding the how many months of eligibility that this dependent might get. The service member may give all 36 months to the dependent, or the service member may have more than one dependent child, and so they may break it up and give them each, if they had 2 children, give them 18 months each. Each month of benefit, normally a student will use about 4 months and a few days of benefits for each full fall and spring term. In the summer term, it's about 2 months. So when you think that they've got 36 months, you're thinking, well, that's only 3 years. But basically, if they're going to school 2 semesters, they're using about 8.5 months of that. So that 36 months will be able to get a veteran student through their education process. The tuition and fees, again, are paid directly to the institution up to a certain cap. For public institutions, we will never exceed that cap. That cap is more put into place for private institutions that charge maybe $12,000 and $13,000 a semester. The housing stipend is paid based on being full-time. They do prorate it. So if a service member served active duty service, then that could be any deployments. They could have been in the National Guard, been called up for Title 10 orders, and got their 36 months that way. It's based on an E5 with dependents, and the military has a calculator where they determine each housing rate based on the zip code. So for Springfield, Missouri, that cap is right now for full-time is $1,089, which means that service member or that dependent using those benefits will receive for a full month of being in school $1,089 to use to pay towards their rent or food, or however they choose to use that. If the service member did not, let's say, serve 36 months, they only serve 20 months, then the VA gives them a percentage of that. So they may say you're entitled to 70%, which means 70% of your housing would be paid, 70% towards your books, and 70% towards your tuition and fees. Chapter 31 is another GI Bill, and this one is handled a little differently. Although it's a GI Bill, it's not governed in our SEO handbook at all. It has its own separate regulations. It's actually, Nicole, can you chime in here? I forget when they've changed this VRE title, what that acronym stands for.
It's Veteran Readiness and Employment.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'll go ahead. Can you talk a little bit about the Chapter 31, because that is your baby and you meet with every Chapter 31 student. So I think you probably could address that a little bit better than I can.
Yeah, so it's kind of run the same way as Chapter 33, only it's actually a better benefit. Their goal obviously is to get the veteran employed when they are finished with school. This pays all their tuition, all their fees, $75 in supplies. They'll pay for a laptop, they'll pay for a printer, they pay for the parking permit and anything the veteran needs to succeed going to school. They'll pay, like if the the professor has that the student needs an iPad, they will pay for it. We just have to have a copy of the syllabus and we can get them that iPad, anything for to help them succeed. That tuition and fees are all paid directly to the school. So we actually put both that and Chapter 33 in what we call a contract, and we advance those payments for their tuition and fees. So those veterans do not have to worry about finance charges or any kind of, and they can get their financial aid beyond, so that they don't have to worry about their accounts. And then we bill the VA in process over the term, and we get paid at the end. Basically 31 gets paid, is billed at the very end of the semester after all drops and adds and all that stuff. And then we get paid after that. But that is actually one of the best benefits that our veterans can receive.
And that's what they have to have a 10 or 20% disability rating to be eligible.
20%.
And at least have 1 day of Chapter 33 post 11 benefits left.
Correct.
To qualify for the program.
Correct.
Thank you. And then we have Chapter 30. Chapter 30 is the Montgomery GI Bill. Chapter 30 has been around for a long time. This is where the active duty members would pay $100 for their first 12 months. It would come out of their check. And then when they left the service, then they were eligible to receive in just a stipend. The stipend would be based on full-time, 3/4 time, half-time, less than half-time, but not greater than 1/4 of the time, and then fourth. So it starts out at $2,150, $2,150 for a student using Chapter 30 based on full-time. And we're going to really get into this full-time here in the next slide or two, because that's where we need your help as advisors is when students are making their schedules to make sure that the definition of full-time for the Department of Veterans Affairs is different than a university full-time definition, and we'll get into that. Chapter 1606, that is for our reservists or our National Guard soldiers, whether it's Air Guard or Army Guard. They sign up for 6-year obligation. As long as they are still actively drilling, they are allowed to use their Chapter 1606 GI Bill, which is again a stipend paid directly to the student based on being full-time. And for a full months of training, they get $407. And then again, it pays out 3/4, half, and less than half time. So depending on how many hours they're enrolled in, depends on what their stipend is. And then Chapter 35. Chapter 35 is for survivors and dependents of a disabled or deceased service member due to a service-connected injury. And that pays, again, full-time $1,298 to the student that is in courses for a full month. And then it pays 3/4, a half, less than a half, more than a fourth, and then a fourth or less. And so the benefits that are highlighted again in red, those are the 3 benefits that are just a stipend paid directly to the individual. And again, before the Chapter 33 post 9/11 rolled out, offices were easily able to keep up with the processing on the 30, the 1606, and the 35 because of just being a stipend, and there was no tuition and fees reported. On this slide right here, and I'm going to let Nicole share, I wanted to give you some resources so you could go in there and read a little bit more about these benefits. This is on the Department of Veterans Affairs website. I did notice when we were going over one of them today that it said it was down for maintenance. So that rarely happens. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Nicole share here to go to those sites, and then we'll continue on.
Okay, perfect. So this one's on post 9/11. Really, I don't know if you want me to go ahead and go through this or.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is actually where our students apply for benefits. It's one of the places they actually apply on a different screen, but you can see where how they're eligible, and they can find out and any information that they want or what is involved with it. Sorry. Anyway, let me go to the other screens that you have there. So that one's post 9/11 and how you can get a lot of information on there. These one is for the Chapter 35. And that is for the ones that as the veteran is 100% disabled or deceased due to a service-connected disability. And that gives them a lot of information there. And you can see that they get education for training or education and training, money for tuition, money for housing, money for books and supplies. Now, again, this one is paid directly to the student. It's not paid to the school. And then we have on our Chapter 30, this is this 30? This is 1606, right? I'm sorry.
1606.
Thank you. I saw that, the MGIB. And this again is for our reservists and National Guard. And this is how they can find out their information, or if you guys want to read up more on how somebody's eligible. And then of course we have our rate tables that we wanted to show you. Something with Chapter 33 is also the Fry Scholarship. That was a little tough. The Fry Scholarship is only given to a student if a veteran is deceased from being in active duty. And that's their children, or I believe it's only children, right, Maylene?
Yes.
Okay. And then this gives you the rate tables, and this tells you, we were talking about how much like a percent, like how much they'd be eligible for. This here is the 100%. That is apprenticeship. I'm so sorry.
Yep. No, that's not. Yep. They've changed it on
Sorry.
the site. Yep.
They did. Okay. Anyway, there's a rate table in here. Like it tells you all the things they're allowed to receive. I think that one was. And the same thing with the Montgomery GI Bill, and they can find out their rate tables in here also. That one's a little easier to read because it tells you the $21.50 for full time. And again, we're going to get into that in a second. Raylene, you want me to transfer this back to you? Those were those 4 links.
Yep. Okay. So this is the breakdown I really want to go over with you. This is a form that we have every student sign and go over with us if they're going to be using the GI Bill. It is a breakdown of what the student needs to do, what we are going to do, what is full-time. So we're going to just start with number 1, and their first thing to do is to request certification. So if they go into their My Missouri State, under their profile, under their student, there's a tab that says request veteran certification. It's just a form that they just click a couple boxes, make sure they update their information with us, tell us what chapter, and submit it. It comes in on a report to us every morning. And so that's how we know that a student wants to use their GI Bill. So then our student workers will print out their certificate of eligibility. That is a piece of paper that the VA gives to the student saying they're eligible for one of these benefits. If it's chapter 33, then it tells us the percentage. And if they're a TOE, which is a transfer of entitlement, the dependent, then it'll tell us how much that sponsor gave to their dependent student. The GI Bill will only pay for courses in the program. So you as an advisor, if you think taking a certain course would benefit them for a program, 2 years down the road that has anything to do with this program, the VA is not going to pay for it. The VA will not pay for GPA improvement. They will only pay to improve a GPA is if that course says in the catalog that they need a C or better to move forward. If you have a student repeat a course just to help for their GPA, the VA will not pay for any of those courses if it's not in the program. But you notice for number 5, 6, and 7, and 8, we kind of have it broke down just a little bit, just reminding the chapter 30, 35, 1606 that it is a stipend paid directly to the student. None of that money touches their accounts, so they're not going to pay their housing, they're not going to pay their food, they're not going to pay their dorm, they're not going to pay their parking fee or their majors bill. So we always have them understand that none of that money is actually going to touch their account. They'll have to move it from their personal account to their student account if they wish to do so. Again, under chapter 33, if they're not 100% where everything's covered, if there's a portion, they'll just know that the student is responsible for that portion that's not paid. And if it's not paid, then of course the business office will apply those finance charges. On number 8, 33, 31, and TA, we do advance payments on those. Nicole will put an advance payment on as soon as she is certified for tuition and fees for 30, 31, and 33, just so if a student is due a refund at the same time other students are due their refund, they get it in a timely manner, that we're not taking that from their other types of funding. And then, of course, tuition assistance. I handle all the tuition assistance individuals, and we'll get into that shortly. Once I get their authorization form for their branch of service, I forward that to financial aid, and then that money gets applied to their account immediately. That is one thing that I'm appreciative that Missouri State does for our military students. I've seen so many institutions wait until they're actually paid before any money is put onto their account, and I've seen students get finance charges, not be able to participate in events, maybe not get their diploma because the money their account wasn't paid off by the time they graduated. So I am very appreciative of what Missouri State does to support our military students. We also tell students if they have to withdraw. If they get called on orders, we have a policy, a military policy, where we can get them out of classes. But if they just find that they're not being successful or they just need to take a time out, we let them know that they need to let us know, because Nicole, when she terminates their certification in the VA1 system, that we can say there's mitigating circumstances. We do not get into it with the VA what those circumstances are. The VA then contacts the student, and then the student works it out with the VA. So a lot of times the student wouldn't have to pay money back as long as that they correspond with us and say mitigating circumstances. So again, if you have a student come to you as the advisor and say, I'm going to have to withdraw, I've got this going on in my life, encourage them to reach out to us if they're using benefits. And so we can add that mitigating circumstances. So that way that maybe they won't have to be put into a financial burden and just add to their stress. We require all the students to give us a certificate of eligibility. Again, that's just a legal piece of paper that says the student is entitled to benefits, what they're entitled to, and if they're doing 33, what the percentage is. Now, I will tell you with the chapter 35, the survivors and dependent benefit, Nicole has to call the VA on each and every one of those. She has to get a payee number. And the payee number just is in military lingo, it just tells you which dependent is, whether it's the first dependent, second dependent, third dependent, and they have unique numbers to identify that in their DARE system. Now, moving to the second page, this is the most important for you as advisors. The GI Bill pays on a student being in training full-time. They consider full-time meaning 12 hours that have the same start date and the same end date. Whereas if you're thinking financial aid university, you just have to be in 12 hours to be considered full-time. And so that means you could take a couple intercession classes or a couple block classes and still get your 100% financial aid because you're considered full-time, not with a VA. And that's why we have this little example of a student who was in, excuse me, 13 hours. Okay, but with the VA is not considering that 13 hours because they're looking at the start dates and there's only 9 credit hours that start on August 22nd and they're full terms. So they're going to get 3/4 of their pay. So when we were saying what the full-time payment was, let's go back to chapter 30, a full-time payment was $21.50. Now we've just dropped them down to 3/4 pay, down to $16.12.50. Because the VA is not reading in that as a full-time student, they're reading it as a 3/4. So in the perfect world, we'd want to see at least 12 hours with August 22nd, 2018 as the start date. And again, those same 12 hours with December 15th as their end date. That's the perfect schedule right there. So that military student will get their full BAH. Anything above 12 hours, the VA doesn't count. So if you want to add those, they want to do those intercession or pick up a B block class after they have the 12 hours that's full-time, that's not going to mess with their benefits at all. We just want to make sure that they get those 12 hours. Now, for the full 16 weeks, of course, in the fall and the spring, it is they need to have at least 12 hours. In the summer, because we're only talking 8 weeks, it's halftime, so they only need 2 full-time classes. Again, beginning the same time, ending the same time, to get their full housing stipend. And we explain this to students and we have them sign off on this. And so we're hoping that they're taking this back when they're meeting with their advisors and saying, wait a minute, my schedule doesn't look right. You know, the VA office told me I needed to do it this way. So if you have any questions, or even if you have military students that you're advising, it's okay to have them reach out to us, and it's okay for you to contact us. Because we'd like to make sure that they get to maximize the benefit that they're entitled to. This next one, we're going to break down tuition assistance. And so tuition assistance works a little differently with each branch. So we've got the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force that all have active duty tuition assistance. The Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force all have this little portal that the service member has to go through. They have to enter their information, and then they send us an authorization form. It's very little maintenance on my end. I do have to keep up their portals by putting in their grades, putting in the correct tuition prices, adding, contact information, but it's really little work on our end for me to help that service member. The Army, on the other hand, they have to be a little difficult. They've had about 3 different programs over the last 20 years of doing for tuition assistance for the Army. It used to be called Minuteman, and it was a paper trail. And so they did away with that in 2006 when they rolled out Go Army Ed. And that's really when I started working in higher education. So I got to be there at the front door of when Go Army Ed rolled out. Well, in February of 2021, the Army decided that that system was no longer functioning and that they were bringing a new platform online called Army Ignited. We are 1 year later and the system is as broke as it was the first day when they rolled it out. So they have put more emphasis on institutions doing a lot of the back work, creating files, enrollment files, creating student degree files to upload in this new system. So soldiers, it was easier for soldiers to request their tuition assistance. So again, I won't get too far in the weeds on this because it's broken. So it's put a lot of work on institutions trying to assist our service members. We haven't been able to properly invoice probably since this new system rolled out. So the institution, based on files that I've uploaded and waiting on the government to roll those files over into enrollment so we actually get paid, we have fronted probably over $150,000 to tuition to soldiers' accounts, just so they're not penalized for the Army's negligence on creating this new system. Coast Guard, we don't have very many Coast Guard. I think since the 7 years I've been here, I've seen 2 Coast Guards walk in, and they're considered Homeland Security. So unless they're actually on Title 10 orders, their pay works a little bit differently, and they have to be on Title 10 orders in order to receive 75% up to $187 a credit hour for classes. The reservists, the name, the Air Force Reserve, are their TA is very much like the active duty, and the same with the Army. It uses the same portal as the active duty Army does. The National Guard, you've got Army National Guard and you've got Air Guard. They both have state TA. The Air Guard does not have any federal TA. The Army Guard has state TA and it has federal TA. But it also has a policy set in place that before the National Guard soldier can use state TA, they have to exhaust their federal tuition assistance. So again, they're being pushed back into this platform that is still being worked on for the Army. So they have to use 16 semester hours or up to $4,000 per Army military fiscal year. So their fiscal year runs from the 1st of October to the end of September each year. So National Guard Army has to exhaust the federal tuition assistance, and after they do, then they can jump over and they can use their state TA, which they get 39 semester hours, 15 for fall, 15 for spring, and 9 for the summer to use. And one thing great about the Army state TA is that they will pay up to the seated cost of Mizzou. So we usually can get the online classes, state TA will cover it, whereas the federal TA won't because they cap out at $250 a credit hour. And then again, the Air Force does not have any federal tuition at all. It just has the state. I know that's a lot of trying to explain that. And if you need any more explanation or if you have any questions, I'd love for you to reach out, because it really gets complicated when you have a service member come in and they're in the Army National Guard, but they were on active duty and they've got 60% of their post 9/11 and they've got 100% of National Guard. We have to work the math and subtract one of those fundings out. So that way we're not double dipping, because when we get a compliance audit, we get audited from the VA, or right now I'm doing an audit with the DoD MOU, which is Department of Defense Memorandum of Understanding. It's where the university has signed off. If we take tuition assistance, we will do X, Y, and Z. So now they're coming back and saying, we want to see that you're doing X, Y, and Z. So I'm in the middle of an audit on that. We just completed a compliance survey with our Fairfax, Virginia location. We also handle those students in Fairfax. For those of you who don't know, we have the Defense and Strategic Studies located in Fairfax, since it is so close to the Pentagon, and most of the instructors are ambassadors or work at the Pentagon. This one right here is probably one that you have not heard about, the Missouri Returning Heroes Act. It is not advertised. We do not have this advertised anywhere because this is a anyway, this is a policy that's set forth by Governor Parsons in the state of Missouri. This is an incentive to get military members to move to Missouri, to go to public institutions, get an education, and then stay and become, a citizen here in the state of Missouri. I'm going to let Nicole go over this because this is one that she handles specifically, because the discounts that we give is being handled by the institution. The funds are not being given to us from the state of Missouri. So this is all funded by Missouri State University. Nicole?
Yeah, so this is Missouri Returning Heroes Act. Missouri Returning Heroes Act is actually one of the best. If we can get a student using Chapter 30 in this before they select their post 9/11, it is actually the best for their bang for the buck, if you want to per se. If they are combat vet within the last 10 years for undergraduate students, they had to have served in a combat zone for 30 days or more. This reduces their tuition to $50 a credit hour. And this also applies to our graduate degrees. There are limited on the graduate degrees. We actually have a list that we've gone through to make sure that because it's not a professional degree, which is extremely hard to understand, but we have a list. So we have graduate degrees. Those students get 70% discount on tuition and fees, as long as they fit into one of the programs that are on the list that are eligible. Again, they have to be a Missouri resident. They have to be a combat vet. The 10-year limit is on undergraduate and 20-year limit is on a graduate degree. Wanted to say
And
something.
on the being a Missouri resident, the only thing that makes them a Missouri resident is they're able to obtain a driver's license.
It used to be that they had to
Enter the service from the state of Missouri, and so they've changed that. They just have to be able to obtain a driver's license or voter registration card.
Yeah.
So
and I
that is-
handle, sorry,
Go ahead.
I handle all the applications for this, all of them. I meet with every single student that applies for this benefit because we want to make sure that they understand what they're eligible for along with their other benefits, or if they have, we do not apply this. This is why we do not advertise it. Another reason is if a student is eligible for 100% Chapter 33, we don't really want to give this discount to the federal government. I don't know if that makes sense, but we don't want to only charge for their Chapter 33, $50 a credit hour, but they can make an option. Okay, I'm going to use Returning Heroes now and use my benefits later, or vice versa. This it does help the student go on to graduate degrees, or they could use their benefits for their graduate degree, depending on if it's one of their degrees is eligible or not. There was something else I was going to say about this and I forgot what it was. Sorry. Raylene, do you have any more on that?
No, except we advertise it here in the office. And what I mean by we don't advertise it, it's you're not going to see this in any of our marketing material. You're not going to see the university, go to the news leader and say, guess what? We're giving, so that's what I mean by advertising. But when we have them sign that student responsibility checklist, or a veteran makes contact with us, we're always asking those questions. And I know a lot of times the people that, we just meet and we're like, we start out our conversations, well, what branch did you serve? How long did you serve? Were you in a combat zone? So we have all these questions. So that way we can narrow down and find the best benefit and the best way for this student to maximize what they're entitled to.
I did see a question on there. The programs of study eligible for Missouri Returning Heroes. All undergraduate degrees are eligible. The graduate degrees are, however, there's a limit. It's non-professional degrees. So again, the verbiage and the definition of that is not, we actually had to get with, was it legal, Raylene? I can't.
Yep.
With legal and another department to create the list. They went through all of our degrees and said, these are eligible and these are not. And it's based off of there's so many different terms to decide that. So that would have to be a question that would need to be like, hey, is this degree eligible for this? And I could tell you that.
Yeah, we work with Julie Masterson on determining which of the graduate programs fit the criteria for the eligibility. And then we have a list, so that way when Nicole gets a student that wants to do a certain program, she can look at what Julie's already signed off on and go, yes, okay, that's an approved program. Because the state doesn't really give you, they give you really generic responses, you know, so they leave it up to the institution to determine which ones are first professional degrees. And normally your ones, I think it is where you have so many years to complete the degree, but a licensure or testing is required to actually work in the field, like nursing,
Right.
PA program, those types of programs. I did see that Donna had posted here, how early should a student FitNet contact us? As soon as you learn they need services. We need to catch them earlier and not later. We will be over at SOAR this year. We'll be over there with a table on Mondays and Wednesdays. So we're hoping to catch those first timers, because if they haven't applied for their benefits or done anything with the VA, as you can imagine, come July or August, everybody, all schools in the United States start in August. So what do? They flood the VA with these applications. So then the turnaround process is a little longer. So that student, until they get in the system and the VA recognize them, it could be 2 or 3 months before they actually receive any payments. And I see any updates on the education abroad options? No. The VA skirts around that, not at all, unless the faculty member is jumping on that airplane and going overseas with that group, or it's in our course catalog that the student can only get that course by studying abroad. They're not going to get their benefits. The VA wants the foreign institutions to be approved through the VA. So that's why they pulled a lot of this back. So students have to apply to that foreign institution and be accepted. And then there has to be a representative at that foreign institution that certifies the benefits through the VA system. So it's no longer, so we don't even promote that. And it's a shame, but the only way our students are going to get to be able to study abroad is if the instructor jumps on the airplane and it's a faculty-led program. Do any of these programs pay student loans? Nope. Only if they want to take out a student loan, and we advise against them taking out a student loan, because if they've got 100% of benefits, there's a way to maximize and to get student loans is the last resort. And matter of fact, that's something when I just said I'm going through this DoD MOU compliance audit, and that's one of the things that we have to show is that, you know, how we advise them on financial aid matters, and that we don't just send them to student loans, because a lot of institutions fund their own loans. And so that's to keep, institutions from just being a little shady. And the courses that are offered in the We Bought course GEP example. Katie, exactly. So they need to make sure that if they're going to do a GEP class in the first 8 weeks or the 7-8 weeks, and then let's say they've got 9 hours full-time, they have to pick up another block class in the opposite block to make them full-time. So we've seen that before, where a brand new student has 12 hours, 9 hours are full-time, and that GEP only goes for 8 weeks. So they'll be full-time for 8 weeks. Second 8 weeks, they won't be full-time and get 3/4 of their money.
GEP is only 2 hours. So that's,
Yep.
they will not be full-time.
Yep. That's right. Thank you. I forget and I used to teach that. Gosh darn it.
No, that's okay. I was actually wanting to go back on that because I wanted to say to the advisors, a lot of you I've emailed. I'm sure that you've seen my emails and you've replied back, but you can have a student in 9 hours from beginning to term to end of term, and then put those 2 block. You could have 3 2-block classes, if that makes sense. So your first 8 block, you want a 3/4 hour, and then the second block 3/4 hour, and that would make them full-time the whole time. But the GEB class is that one's a tough one because it is only 2 hours. So you've got to I've got a lot of students actually this semester that are only 3/4 time, half the semester. And then they're going to be 3/4 time after the first block, because they're in 10 hours and then they drop down to sorry, 11 hours, and then they drop down to 9 because of that GEP class.
And Jamie, that is right. Thank you for mentioning that FAFSA. That is something that Rob Moore and I are working on, is trying to create more of an awareness that applying for the FAFSA does not take away from your tuition assistance or your GI Bill. That's what I'm talking about when we contract anticipated funds from the military. So if somebody is eligible for Pell and they're, we don't want to take their Pell to pay for those courses. We want them to be able to have a refund if they're due, if they've got other funding sources for that tuition and fees. So thank you, Jamie, for saying that. That is something that we put in every one of our emails, that when we directly talk to a student, when they contact us, is, have you filled out your FAFSA? So there is a stigma out there that the military members think they cannot apply for that, and that is not correct at all. So encourage them to pay for that.
There's another question on there, Raylene, for Michael Hudson about active duty. It's anytime. It doesn't matter when they are called to active duty. They're given 100% refund on all of their courses, housing, everything. As long as they get us those the orders, we will work with other offices to help those students so that they are not charged anything for the semester. The only thing that we absolutely tell them is they may have to return financial aid depending on when they drop.
Yep. And this last page here is just some, just giving you our mission statement, our support, recognition, and who we have in our office. There's Nicole and myself is the two full-time individuals. I have 1 GA and we have 10 student workers. And we have a military population of about 750 that we process. Hutch, are you still on there? I want to bring you up here to the front and see if we've got any questions for you, if you want to chime in with anything.
Yes, ma'am. The only thing I can really say for sure is just make students aware, like, this office is for us. Can't tell you how many times that I was confused on certain things, and I just came in here, and it wasn't even through Raylene or Nicole. There was people in here and I could just come talk to, and they gave me a pretty good idea of what I needed to do. But if it was something serious, any question I've ever had, it was just as simple as talking to Miss Raylene, and it was answered almost immediately. So if there's any confusion at all, just send them to the office and we will walk them through what they need to get done.
Hey, Nicholas, will you introduce yourself and just share a little bit about your academic journey here at Missouri State, and some of your experiences working with advisors, and just any issues or concerns that you've had that we as advisors could learn from?
Yes, sir. So from my experience, I went to basic training right out of high school, and then I came here. I think I've seen him on here, Mr. Rader. He was originally my advisor for accounting, excuse me, accounting. But later into my years, or to my junior year, I kind of had trouble with one of the classes, and then I got transferred over to Bachelor of General Studies. The only thing I can say is just make it really aware, and we kind of do here in the office, is like there's going to be additional fees after tuition that you'll notice in your account. Just make it aware to them that it's going to happen. That's kind of something that hit me. I'm the 1606, so mine's a little less covered. Yeah, Miss Lisa Anderson, she does a great job over at ROTC. And that's another program that's really good to send people to kind of look at. Miss Lisa's really good at advising over there too. She's helped me a lot. She kind of saved me with my degree program and whatnot, but to get me commissioned and graduate on time. But for advising, just make sure that they're aware of this office for sure, veteran side wise.
Ross, I think that's all we have on this last slide here. Is, again, we have an office email account. There's my email account, and then Nicole's, and our phone number. And again, we're in the Meyer Library, room 108. We're right next door to TRIA, right across the hall from the DRC. So.
Okay, great. Well, Nick and Nicole and Raylene, thank you for joining us today for this advisor forum. I'm going to go ahead and just allow a couple moments for additional questions. I know we've had several people already enter questions in the chat feature, but feel free to drop additional questions in the chat, or if someone wants to ask a question, now would be a great time to do that as well, if you just want to unmute yourself.
I was gonna say one other thing for your advisors, like if you're advising a student and you know they're gonna be using benefits, and you're at that point of, okay, we've got them in all these classes, how does this look? Does this look right? If you are not sure and you just wanna, hey, is this okay for the students to be in these classes or whatnot? Remember that it has to be on their degree audit, or it's gotta be in your advising notes, or I can't approve it. And then if you come down and you've got their concise schedule ready to go and you just wanna, hey, is this gonna be full-time? You can shoot us an email or give us a call and we'll absolutely look at their account real quick and check it out. Just so that, to help you to make sure that we've got them at full-time and we're not waiting until after the term has begun and they can't do anything, if that makes sense.
Nicole, I do have a follow-up question to that. If a student is trying to get into a competitive program that requires a certain GPA to be admitted into the major, could the student repeat a course then, or they cannot, even if it's to raise a GPA to get into a certain degree program?
I'm gonna pull this up real quick on their GPA thing. It's on my school certifying handbook. Let me see. I'm gonna share the screen real quick. Let me pull this up. And I can always, this is part of actually when I email our email advisors, I do include these little tidbits from my handbook so that you guys can see that we're not, like, I want to make sure, can everybody see, can you see that?
Nope.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. There we go.
Yep. Okay.
So this is actually in my handbook. If they're successfully completed, they cannot be certified again. And there gives you a little thing here, like example, if it B or better in biology, then the class can be repeated until that B is earned. The course required for graduation, a student can repeat it until it is successfully completed, but it's got to be successfully completed. And then a student chooses to repeat a course that was successfully completed, cannot be certified. Cannot be certified. The only time, and there is a way, I'm going to try to find it real quick. Admission to the next level. Raymond, am I on the screen with the handbook or am I still on this?
You're on the handbook.
Perfect.
Yep,
Courses required for admission to the next training. This is like when they're in, as you can see, and I can send this screenshot to you guys. I can even send you the link to the handbook. It's a little big, but there is a way, like, so if they're like in a bachelor, I can't say that word, sorry, baccalaureate degree, I can certify them to get to that next level at that point, but not while they're in the degree that they're in. Does that make sense? And it's a little tough.
And then the other follow-up question I had was in regards to Donna's question about, Raylene, you had mentioned send them to you all as soon as possible. Would the student, like if Donna or one of the other advisors is working with a potential transfer student coming to Missouri State, but that student's not yet been admitted to Missouri State, would you all still want to see those students as prospective students, or do you prefer to wait until they're admitted to the university?
If they know they're going to come to Missouri State, because they're going to have to fill out a transfer paperwork if they've used benefits. Let's say they're coming from OTC and they use benefits there, then they're going to have to fill out a change of place of programming or change of major to report to the VA. Hey, I'm no longer attending OTC. I want my home school now to be Missouri State University. So again, depending on the time of year that they submit that form, the VA could be backlogged. The VA used to do processing in 3 different locations. They used to do it in Muskogee, Buffalo, and St. Louis. Well, now they're doing it all out of Buffalo. So you can imagine that office up there dealing with 50 states with all the institutions and the processing. So when it hits a certain time of year, they're just going to be backlogged. They try to do a lot of things automated, but again, they'll get an email and say, we received this, and it can take another 30 days on our end to process. And so Nicole cannot put students that we have to contract for those anticipated funds like Chapter 33 without that COE, because we don't want to post $3,800 to a student's account to find out they're not eligible for that. So now that we've just, incurred them a bigger debt. So the sooner we can get them in here and show them what they need to do, at least they can do what they have to do on the VA side. And a lot of times too, on these brand new FitNICs, their sponsors may have transferred the benefits, but the child themselves didn't know they had to go in and apply for them. So that's why we like to talk to them to make sure that they've done everything on their end that they need to do. And then we can tell them what to do moving forward.
Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up the form?
I see Lisa's making a plug for ROTC, so I guess I'll mention, the military science, because we work very closely with her. So yeah, so she's saying if you've got anybody who, wants to inquire about that, as long as they've got a military science listed as their minor, TA will pay for it, GI Bill will pay for it.
Probably 95% of our students are working with Raylene and Nicole, maybe even closer to 98. We have 3 or 4, sometimes only 2 every year that are like 4-year Army scholarship also works with Raylene, but pretty much the entire group is somehow connected via National Guard, GI Bill, something. So Raylene and Nicole are forever dealing with every single one of our students. And we currently have 111. So that's just ours. That's not all of their veterans across campus. So we appreciate them.
Thank you, Lisa. We love you too.
I just wanted to say that I worked with a veteran student the year before last, and you guys must do a really good job, because she would always remind me of full-time status and how it was different, and intercession courses couldn't quite work and things like that. So she knew her stuff. So I think that's probably a good reflection on you guys. So thanks for this
Thank you.
workshop today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all you do to support our military, our veteran students. So Nicole, Raylene, Nick, again, thank you for being here for this advisor forum. Participants, thank you for choosing to spend your lunch hour to learn more about this important student population. And I look forward to hopefully seeing all of you at the Master Advisor reception this coming Thursday. Have a great day.